Welcome to A Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan.
So, obviously,
I shouldn't
everybody
have said it like that. I shouldn't have said it like that. People
What
are
do you
going to
mean?
hate me for saying it like that.
What?
Who do you think you are being cutesy? You're a hurricane out there.
Yeah.
You
That's
pecker sniff.
I'm sure everybody's rushing around to get prepared, and like you should. But
No,
and we're going to talk to
don't
Mike.
rush around. You should be prepared. You don't necessarily need to rush around. That could get you into some trouble.
Oh, I need to rush.
Okay, all right, that's fair.
I got to go to the dump.
Rush.
Crystal's mom's in Europe with her sister, so we're watching the animals for 2 weeks.
Oh my God! What do you got to strap the parrots down? What do you do? Or do you release them into the store? You have to release them into the store.
I went. I'm like, oh,
what do you do?
I'll leave them in there. I don't know. I mean, but we have to go. I mean, I imagine the power turn off.
Do you have to put a tent? What if they get out?
No, they won't. I mean,
are there dogs and cats there too?
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's like a lot going on.
Yeah. It's Sweet
and
Tooth
you're
over there.
Okay, all right. It's Sweet Tooth over there,
and
you are in charge of going
I'm
over.
the general.
Are you and the boys do the boys kind of go along with you, or are they not allowed now that Max got his finger chopped off?
No, they'll
that was
go.
years ago.
They're just horrible at work. So they just slow me down.
No offense to the boys, but if you asked me to go over and take care of the birds, I would be horrible at it too.
Yeah. Well, they're all.
It's not something I think people that don't have birds want to do. Name one non-bird person that is qualified to take care of birds. You're the only person I know of that doesn't necessarily dislike nor like birds, but you know how to handle them. You know how to feed them. You know, water them.
Well, the interesting part is when you do feed them, you have to distract them to one side of the cage.
Sure.
Then run
this
over
is called
to
the chimp crazy. It's called this is the chimp crazy.
And then I run over to their water bowl and open and then the birds are hauling ass to bite my fingers.
What kind of a window do you have? How long do you have?
Oh, it's fast. I mean, like 20 seconds before they can get. If they get out of that hole, I'm screwed.
Yeah, secretly I think you like it because it's still a little dangerous, right? You like the danger.
They just want to bite my fingerprints off.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I'm trying to give you food, birds.
Yeah.
Anyway, and there's
the bloodlust of the fingerprints outweighs the food.
There's a new bird that has no feathers. Crystal's
Wait
mom,
a minute, all of her birds. What happened to Paco? He had no feathers.
Died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But there's a new one that has no feathers. I didn't even know it was there.
Paco Jr. Oh,
it scared the hell out of me.
It's in the corner.
Yeah,
it should be alive. The other birds hate it.
You know, Crystal's. All these are rescues. And people call.
Some say rescues. Others say, come on, you gotta do what you gotta do.
People call Crystal's mom, and they know she'll take them.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, we got this bird that's dying. And it's got no feathers. Do you want to take care of it?"
Well, the answer is no. I don't want to, but I think her answer is I'm obligated because I love animals and I'm a good person.
And I'm sure they tell her, like, if you don't take care of it, we're just going to stomp it.
Yeah. She's like, I'm a good. And then I
think
think Crystal's mom, and I think this in her brain, she accurately says, I am a good human being and I value life. I can't let you do that. I'll take the bird.
Yeah.
Because she's a good person. Because she's a good person.
Yeah, but she's in Europe. There's a hurricane
I saw her.
coming.
She's swimming in Greece.
No,
I saw pictures. She's floating. She's in a beautiful Grecian coastline. There's a yacht there. Yeah. Mimosa, surely a Bellini or a mimosa is being consumed.
I'll go in October. No hurricanes will come. Anyway.
This is what Mike from Mike's Weather Page has been saying about, like, guys, we probably should extend the season.
Yeah.
Are we there? We're going to extend the seasons now, right?
The season goes till November. Beginning of November anyway.
But we used to say that, like, October, it's like it used to be September is when it's spicy.
Yeah, but I remember 2 years ago we were like bitching about the hurricanes blowing down our Halloween decorations. So this has happened before. Also, me and Daniel were talking. This looks a lot like Hurricane Charlie did.
Yeah, I don't like that.
But by the way, which is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Which. I remember like going outside Hurricane Charlie. Like I remember I was in Heroin Alley. That's where I live.
I was in Deltona.
And then I was an intern at the radio station, and I remember thinking like, oh, it's only a Category 1. Like I've been through Category 1s in Miami before or whatever. But with Charlie, I remember that it rained a lot.
Yeah.
Similar to what it's doing now,
Very
soaking the ground.
Saturating everything.
And then when the wind came with Charlie, it just pushed a lot of trees over. And I remember the next day, like when I was driving around, I didn't because during it, I was like, it's not that bad. Like I said, I was standing outside, but it's just the constant wind just pushed these giant overgrown trees over, which I imagine in 20 years have grown back overgrown.
That was the problem that happened in
Hopefully
Ellijay, the place in Georgia that me and my family like to go to.
Yeah.
That's what happened there, is that the rain had saturated the ground for like a week before we got there, and then the weather was really good for one day, but then that night the storm came in, and because they'd had so much rain, it just started pushing trees over because they get, I mean, I guess anything, once you saturate the ground, it gets loose or it's not as compact.
And then the branches of the trees act like sails, and I remember driving around in like huge root areas would just like be lifted up, so like attached to it would be the ground, and it would be on its side. This huge half circle of roots and sod.
It looks like Wonderworks over on I Drive. It's like a uprooted tree.
And then that knocked a lot of power lines over, which caused the outage. And we and you were talking about, like, I remember in Heroin Alley, which is the Goldenrod and Curry Ford, I was out of power for 10 days. And you in Deltona were 30 days.
I did 30. It was more than 30. I want to say it was like 34. I've forgotten the story, but when we lost power in Deltona, it was one of the harder areas hit in Volusia County, and I had a generator because I had prepared.
Yeah.
And then it knocked out power, but then we had the other two storms coming. So I had my windows boarded up for the original storm, and I lived in that place for, I think maybe I did 8 to 10 days with the generator and just filling it up with gas. And I was like, man, I can't do this.
Yeah,
so
30 days of generator living is rough.
I had a BlackBerry. I remember that. And I was going through a relationship change. And I was dating just a myriad of loose women and whores at the time. I mean, just whores and loose
I remember
women.
I was an intern. I remember like
you're like, this guy's a maniac.
Dating likes him loose.
Yeah, I do. I like him.
He's smoking in Deltona.
I'm smoking in my house.
Running through some Deltona.
Trash whores. There's just there were cigarette butts and beer cans everywhere. This place was a dump. So I stayed in there for about, 8 to 10 days, and then I decided that I couldn't take it anymore. So I went up the street and got like a day's in. It was one of those ones you could rent by the week. And I rented for 2 weeks. I still remember I had a big old thick blue BlackBerry. It's the Nextel. It's I had a Nextel BlackBerry.
Yeah.
I remember I would sit. I mean, there was nothing to do. You would come in. It was a horrible time in my life because you would come into the radio station and do. And I guess there was less social media presence, so I guess we mattered more. The radio broadcast when it comes to like, hey, there's gasoline in Leesburg. Hey, there's gasoline in DeLand. There's a Citgo in DeLand right off the exit. They got
getting
gas.
information out was this is pre-social media.
Yeah, it was like a thing.
Pre everybody having a smartphone, which the alerts come and all the information comes to you.
My car alerts me. It says plug it in and charge me to 100. There's a hurricane approaching. Like that's before all of that.
I remember. I remember the radio station.
At the radio station.
The radio station was like, people are calling in like, there's ice on the corner of Howell Branch. And they're like, oh, and you listen, and you're like, oh, Howell Branch.
Yeah, it was like swap shop radio. Like you'd be driving to the Citgo in DeLand, right? You'd be driving to the Citgo, and then they call in and be like, hey, man, I'm in line here at the Citgo in DeLand. It's about a mile and a half deep, and they about out of gas. And you'd be like, damn it, I got to turn around.
Was there Facebook in 2004?
Yeah.
It wasn't prevalent.
No, it was more like for college kids.
Yeah, so no, we didn't all have. There was no social media, right?
I mean, I think we
the very beginning,
I think we may have had like I joined Twitter in like 05, 06.
I think it says I remember I joined Facebook in 08.
In 08?
Yeah. So like I think 2004 there was nothing.
Andrea got me on there. People are saying there was MySpace.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the same. Like you didn't.
People weren't communicating through MySpace. Yeah.
No, you would text. I think I had a T-Mobile Sidekick at the time. And you would still tune in to like weather band radio and then like the news station. That's what you would do.
Yeah,
weather
to get
channel.
information. Yeah, that was it. There was no other way to get information.
Yeah, but like
which
now,
is nuts to think about.
Yeah, but now it's just like I don't think it has the same value. You know, I mean, like you can like look at your phone and then you can like geofence your area, and then it will just give you warnings of what's approaching.
Yeah,
you can see the storm rolling in.
You know where sandbags are. You know where everything is. It's like we're set up a lot better now. It's just the I feel bad.
Chat room's reminding me my Nextel, because I did have a Nextel BlackBerry.
Yeah.
It was one of the only working cell phones during Charlie. I remember that. Yeah, I was able to communicate pretty well during that. That was scary, though. I mean, those were pretty scary when they came through like that. Also, I don't know about you guys, but living in a boarded house alone, I don't know if you've ever boarded your windows. I'm assuming you have.
I never had to.
Okay, so when you board your windows
in Miami for Andrew when I was a kid, but
so like in my Deltona house, I remember boarding the windows up. My dad helped me do it, and I remember like living in a house with boarded up windows is weird. It's super dark and weird.
When Charlie came through in 2004, I rented some just S-hole in Heroin Alley.
Yeah.
And so I didn't care about boarding the windows. Also, too poor for boards.
Yeah. It was expensive.
And it was a rental place that had termites in it.
Oh, you kept them, right?
That was the tick house. That it was just, I was like, screw this place. And nothing, the winds weren't bad enough to rocket stuff through the windows.
But I also remember boarding at my windows, and I remember that, the two other storms after Charlie rolled through. And then I remember even after that, there was so much damage around the area in Deltona that I was in that I think I left my boards up for like another couple of months. Like I think I lazied it, and other people did too. It was almost like Christmas decorations. It was like you had your boards on your windows. They were all labeled with spray paint, front window, right window, and you just leave them up because you're kind of like, well, you got used to it. And everything around my street looked like S. It all looked like S.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of look around and be like, we'll all get to it. And then I guess eventually, I think like a month or so later, I ended up, one Saturday I had nothing to do. I was I might as well take these down.
Yeah.
But I think there was a part of me that said, like, I'll leave them up. Like this is the new way we live here in Florida because storms are just going to keep slapping us like that many times.
We dodged it. There hasn't been one storm that has gone straight through like this since Charlie. I know there's been other storms that have hit Tampa and stuff, but never right through the middle of the state.
And I think most people...
was there another one that after
I
Charlie?
think there was one, but I don't think it was quite as
Because I remember Irma hit us because the boys were asking me about when's the last time we didn't have power, and I was like, we were out of power for like 3 days with Irma, and that was in 2017. So in 2017, a similar path, but it was tropical storm by the time it came over us, so it wasn't as bad as Charlie. Charlie was a 1 when it came over us, just like seemingly. We're going to talk to Mike from Mike's weather page in a little while. So we'll ask him about it. But anyway, I mean, here's the thing: it's almost me and Daniel were debating whether or not to even discuss it because it's on everybody's mind. All the information is being you're bringing into, like, you don't need information from us. Like it's a different, it's not 20 years ago where it's like, I'm looking for Tom and Dan for some information.
But with that said,
you got the information.
But with that said, if you're a listener and you need help, I mean, show at tomanddan.com, Dan at tomanddan.com, Tom at tomanddan.com. I mean, we'll help you out if you need help. But like most of you guys know what we're up against. Most of you guys know to prepare. I don't want to insult your intelligence. I also want you to take it seriously if you need to. This isn't hurricane party. This isn't a hurricane party type storm to me.
Remember too, to think about if you don't have power, like all the stuff in your fridge. It's probably too late to get a generator. I imagine they're all sold out everywhere. Maybe there's some out there.
I will say for BDM members, there were people helping each other out. That's all I'll say.
Go to our BDM page.
If you're a BDM, there were people saying, "Hey, I got an extra one. I'll let you borrow it, or you can buy mine."
This, if everybody just,
I don't even have a generator anymore.
The one good thing, and there's very little good things that come out of storms, but it is very encouraging to see everybody help each other.
Yeah.
And it reminds you that like, oh, we're all in this together. We're all, you know, like, and it really does, like, you see the good in a lot of people just being willing to lend a hand to anybody around them.
Yeah.
And so, and I truly
Barry
believe
Joe's
that.
got an extra generator right now. He's offering up to people. So.
Okay, yeah. Go to our BDM page, and like if our community helps each other, that's great. I know, you know.
Don't buy stuff that you don't need. If your cars are gassed up and you got water, you're good.
Our speaking of helping friends, our buddy Tony is in New York, Moonjet. And
no!
And so his wife Chrissy asked. She's like, can you guys help me?
She needs somebody to stop by there and help her, tie up her boobs. I mean, she's a good looking. Yeah, come on.
Why would you say that?
When Moonjet's away, when Moonjet's
he's
away,
our friend.
But hurricanes make me horny. The last time I went through something like this, I was a horny boy. I was single the last time I went through one of these. There's no telling what I'll do.
I did think, like, the BDM's gonna put up a hurricane, thread.
I already started one on the Reddit. I already started
on the Reddit. I'm not on that.
Yeah,
You're gonna go to the BDM page.
Does she need some help though? Seriously?
No,
I'll drop by there.
No, we're gonna help. Like, she just wants the after the storm.
Why'd she ask you?
Generator.
She asked me. I get things
you don't
done.
know about that.
Oh, I know everything about that. I do things the correct way. I don't like fumble around.
Yeah, but you don't have to worry about it. You live in a military base.
I do live in an old military.
Yeah. You're gonna you probably won't even lose power.
This just in, and it's old news because we are a podcast. Orange County just canceled school on Wednesday and Thursday, so I know Maisie will be very upset about that because she loves school.
Oh, my sons will be upset they didn't cancel on Tuesday and Friday as well because they were like, "Are we?" I
agree with the Friday one. If you've given them Wednesday, Thursday, you have to give them Friday. It's stupid to make them come back. Teachers don't want to come back.
And then they got Monday off because of Columbus Day.
Italian Day, right?
Yeah.
Italian American Day. Is that what we call it?
I think it's like a Native American.
You mean Indigenous Peoples Day?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I like to call it Indian Day.
Okay, that's fair.
Because it shows my ignorance, and I am also being respectful somehow.
It's like
ignorantly respectful.
Like you said it on Friday's show, it's like canceling out your own vote.
I like that. So
when I had the one in Deltona, just quickly, like when I had the 3 hurricanes there, I will say there was a weird camaraderie that I got with my neighbors about we did have like a help each other hurricane bond. And it's a good vibe. Like it made all of it. I think it was the only reason I knew my neighbors really were the hurricanes.
You do get to see because everybody's living on the internet and fighting with each other, especially about politics. Then you realize you're like, oh, in the real life. Everybody, regardless of whatever politics they believe in, they will be willing to help each other. And like we've all seen it, and you got to remember, like that's the reality. The internet is a BS. But anyway, all right, let's take a break.
Yes, sir.
When we come back, we got Mike from Mike's Weather Page.
Yes.
He'll give us the update on what we're gonna expect. But
we haven't even said the name of the storm. I don't even like saying it's a nerd name.
Well, everybody knows.
It's a dumb name.
Yeah. I like this. This is a replay of the old.
This is how you make it generic. You're like, that's what we should have done.
We're
not even going to say the name of the storm just out of respect for you guys. And it's like, we can run this every time there's a hurricane.
Yeah, because it's all the same.
It's all the same.
We've done this
I
enough.
don't know if you guys have noticed this, but even real radio, like if you just rolled it for every storm and kept it generic, it would work.
How many named storms have you been through?
Me?
50?
I told Maisie because I counted being a child.
Okay, well,
how many named stories have hit me? I said at least 50. I said 50.
I think
maybe I
much.
said 75, so I went way too high.
Yeah, it may be
probably
close
20.
To 20. Yeah.
20 storms.
Because you're right, there was those 3 in 2004,
that was a lot.
Then there was a bunch.
I call those the Charles Dickens ghost, like bam, bam, bam.
But I guess
1, 2, 3.
Hit you or affected you in some way is different. Like this one looks like it's right up I-4 again. Which
you know what? The right up I-4 is bad.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll talk to Mike when we come back. Welcome back to A Corporate Time. So we've got Mike from Mike's Weather Page on. How you doing, Mike?
Doing pretty good. I'm kind of in a denial phase right now that we got this coming at us. We just dealt with Helene. I'm like, hasn't even sunk in yet. We have another hurricane like literally a week away. Or a week from Helene, right? It's crazy.
And Mike, you live in Tampa. Sometimes we don't talk about that, but I know that if you follow Mike's weather page, you'll know that you've been talking about how the storm track is basically right over your house, right?
Yeah, I was putting subtle reminders out last night, like the track's south, but I'm seeing it north. Well, the 11 a.m. just came out, and it's smack dab over my house. I mean, literally,
Jesus.
like over my house. I always knew I'm going to go out with a bang one way or another, be it my flip-flops, my truck, or whatever else. I mean, I hope, you can only laugh about it, honestly, at this point. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you can't stop Mother Nature. You just have to be prepared. That's all.
Yeah.
So Mike, let's get into it, and I know you've been talking about like not paying attention to the wobbles, because everybody, obviously, every time there's a new storm track out or gets released, people look at it and they're like, oh,
they want to buy into it quickly.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, these storms, they wobble back and forth. They're so gigantic that people are looking at a line, and you're like, oh, you're losing sight of how big this thing even is.
Well, you're so right, man. I mean, that is the number one message that I'm trying to make, is that human emotion of every 6 hours. And it just clogs my feet up. People react to these 5-10 mile shifts and not looking at the fact that this isn't like a tornado where you have a track that's fairly skinny, let's say. A hurricane is extremely wide, and the wiggles and wobbles make a difference as far as the eye wall and who gets those massive winds and surge. But like I kind of joked this morning, another man's trash, another man's treasure. Just because now you don't get it, somebody else is going to get that. So those impacts are still there, but the overall size of these storms is so large, 5-10 mile tracks don't mean nothing. Like, we still have the same effects throughout the whole state of Florida. I mean, I'm looking at we're going to have hurricane warnings from like Gainesville, Ocala, all the way down to Naples, all the way to the East Coast. So wiggles and wobbles don't matter in the scheme of things, right?
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So Mike, what are we looking for as currently for landfall? Obviously, through the track through the middle of the state, which affects us and a lot of our listeners here in Central Florida, even though we've got listeners all around Florida, but primarily Central Florida and
I'd say Orlando, Tampa's our guys.
And what are we looking at?
Well, the only thing we can compare to this as far as West Central Florida's never got a direct hit since 1921. So nobody in our lifetime has seen what's going to happen. Okay. We've had them hit south of us, obviously, with Ian and Charlie and Irma back in the day. But as far as where I'm at, it's unprecedented. And it's going to go across the I-4 corridor. We could see 85 to 100 mile an hour sustained winds reaching the Orlando area. It's going to be a fast-moving system, so it doesn't have a lot of time to weaken. And the most recent storm that we can think about in this whole I-4 corridor was Irma, and it was a 1, but it had a massive effect with power outages and trees down, and those Cat 1 winds. So it's going to be one of the most impactful hurricanes a lot of us have seen in many, 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 many years coming across the middle part of the state. And what I'm, concerned about is the ground saturation. Number one is crazy wet right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a lot for trees to go down, and we have power outages. Resources are spread thin right now across all of the U.S. because of Helene. So power trucks are not sitting there lined up like they might usually be, because they're working in other areas of the country. And then the east side effects, I'm a little concerned about what Ian and Nicole did. Ian was a tropical storm when it exited, but it tore the heck up out of the beaches there. And I'm starting to see this wraparound. The dirty side is always the south side on approach. Those are the counterclockwise winds and storms. But Florida's unique because when it exits, the dirty side is now the north side. And that's what we saw with Ian and Nicole. And, I'm concerned about a lot of issues across northern parts of Florida on the east side, too. So very impactful. We're going to have tornado warnings and watches all the way down to Key West, starting as early as tomorrow evening, overnight into Wednesday. So, again, just a lot of the most, I guess, heartbreaking thing is tens of thousands of homes were flooded for Helene that aren't really being talked about because there's a lot of impacts around the country right now, obviously, and it's hard to pinpoint everybody's impact from Helene. But we got folks that have miles and miles of roads right now are lined up with debris in Pinellas, Manatee, north of every county. So we got everything out there in the streets. If we get more, they're already predicting 8 to 12 foot surge in Tampa Bay. Those just came out this morning. Those numbers we have never seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, and I've seen the footage of Pinellas where you do, and I think I was mentioning this to you, Tom, where you've got people that, everything that they have, their last stick of furniture is outside right now trying to, and it's saturated and ruined and looting and destroyed. It's bad. It's real bad.
Yeah, I don't. Just our barrier islands. Talking to a lot of my local sheriff buddies, it's very stressful. They had to close the islands.
Yeah.
To get things back to normal. This is going to happen again. We just don't know the severity of this storm until after it passes.
Sure.
And so my number one advice for people at this point in the game is, your local EOC offices are number one. So every county's got a local EOC, Emergency Operations Center. They're the ones to go to find out about evacuations and impacts and shelters. And then secondly, the number one thing I learned that really helps people is trusting your local meteorologist during times like this. So this is the time in your market. I can't cover everybody's market, but turn to your local Met that you trust the most, and they will see you through. Like, they'll be your security blanket and helping you. They're the ones. So, I can't, cover every market, but those are the best two advices that I have at this point in this process.
Gotcha.
So Mike, I almost don't even want to say this because I
love these. And then he still says them.
Like, I'm not trying to scare anybody or try to fear monger or say, but I
don't think we've ever been those guys.
And I'm a super logical person, and I'm not a very, obviously the Van family, like my dad died Hurricane Andrew.
Yeah.
He just drove his boat out into the middle of the ocean.
Long line of men who give no merit to storms.
Yeah.
A long line of men who do not get scared by the wind.
It's like Lieutenant Dan's heritage, like I'm, one of these days I may take my, anyway. But I started looking. I remember Charlie. We were talking about it earlier, and I remember in 04 because we were in Central Florida, and I remember when Charlie came through and as a 1. I was outside. I was in college. I was drinking, and I was like, "This is not even that bad." I was literally outside with my friends partying. And I'm like, I've been through worse in Miami. And then the next day, just all the trees and the power outages and like just way more devastation than I thought.
Bad.
And then it was because the ground was so saturated, just pushed all these trees over, and I didn't foresee that. I was like, because it didn't seem like the winds were that bad, but it doesn't take that bad of winds to push over a giant oak tree that crushes like all the power lines, and then it takes a lot of time to fix. Then mixed with the fact that Helene just happened, and I know that we sent a lot of our power resources and trucks north to help everybody in the Carolinas that were impacted so badly, that it's like it seems like it's adding up to a situation where we're going to have a lot of power outages for a long extended period of time. Hopefully I'm wrong, and I have no information to
you're
to
going on
this,
what you live through.
but I'm just saying that like we probably sent out a lot of resources, and now it's going to affect this huge area around us and screw our power for a while.
Totally. And, I'm sponsored by Furman Generator Company. They're great, but they told me everybody's strapped. Like, they have very few left. They know their competitors are out. So, people running out to get generators, or they might be hard to find. It's just unprecedented to see a storm of this magnitude. Couple weeks ago, I posted, it's weird. Mother Nature sometimes repeats herself. We have seen it in the past. Back in 04, and we're kind of in the same situation here. But you're right. The eye-opening after a storm, I storm chase now. I've had people call me, what's it going to be like? What's it going to be like? But you hit the nail on the head. First off, don't drive. I mean, when I was up there for Helene, Interstate 10, there was a tree down every 20 feet. Big, massive pine trees. These are falling down. You imagine driving big-ass tree. You don't want to be out there in this mess. There's going to be power lines dangling. There's going to be power poles on the ground. You're going to be driving over power lines. We're going to have flooded roadways, that you're not going to see. You're going to see, feet of water accumulating. So it's dangerous. And then the visuals, like you said, after the fact, it's, it's going to look like a bomb went off. I mean, that's basically bottom line. We got a lot of cleanup. Irma, I'll never forget. There was so much vegetation and trees down, and it was a weakening storm that landfalled in Naples, and it was still that strong as it came up through Florida. And yeah, so I'm telling everybody, I've learned my lesson with Orlando. People told me they're going to Orlando. Sorry, Orlando tourism. I've told them to not go to Orlando because these storms always find Orlando. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's that weird path up the I-4 corridor,
it just
which
follows the road for
which
some
we've
reason.
seen a couple storms do that. Now, Mike, I want to ask you a couple technical questions about hurricanes because we saw that the projected strength of Milton is possibly could hit 5, but then reduce before it makes landfall. What causes that reduction in speed? Because
Well, so it's going to look like a Charlie right now. It's a really teeny little storm, and little teeny storms can ramp up really fast, and they can ramp down really fast. I mean, that's kind of what we're hoping for. But what happens is when they transition, sometimes there's going to be a frontal line to the north that starts to absorb that little bit of dry air, and they get bigger. Subtropical systems expand. They expand the wind field is what it's called. So the size of it now, it's going to double almost by landfall. The pressures are going to drop, which I'm very fearful of saying the word weakening at this point, because if it weakens from a 4 to a 3 or a 5, that's what I'm so worried about. My neighbor said the same thing. Well, it's supposed to weaken, right? It's supposed to weaken, right? I'm like, well, yeah, we can do a 3. So the pressure ranges are going to be up to 950, 960, 940, let's say. Still Cat 3 pressure ranges, but the wind field is going to be a lot wider as the structure of the hurricane just expands because of the frontal. We have a front right now. It's cool outside. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. It's drizzling outside. It feels cool, and I'm thinking there's a Cat 5 just a few hundred miles off to our west. You know. So that's the difference with this storm. It's going to expand right towards landfall, and that spreads that surge out to larger areas. It's going to be a wider system now, with that water being pushed, and that'll also help more inland effects. Unfortunately, it won't be just a little area getting winds. It'll be a lot wider area getting winds, and then it magnifies that East Coast effects that I'm talking about. So it's just a natural process of hurricanes. They usually can't maintain a 5 very long before they go through eye wall replacements and just naturally, get weaker. But weaker to a 3, that's what I'm worried about.
Right. Right, because the term weaker is almost a dangerous adjective to have on there, considering it's all dangerous.
I hate it.
Yeah, I get you. I understand what you're saying.
Mike, is there any I think all of us in the back of our minds, we see this, we're all on social media, we all have smartphones, which is another thing me and Daniel were talking about. Like in 2004, we
I'd
remember
sleep at the radio station because I was important for getting the latest, documents from whoever we were listening to.
Get the information out.
And then putting it out.
And it's like everything comes to your smartphone now, and we're all watching. And I think there's this disbelief almost. I know I have it, and I imagine that it's some human psychology. You're looking at it, you're looking at the path, you're looking at simulations of the storm go right through Florida. Like, we all have seen every simulation, and then we still say, maybe they're wrong. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this is not gonna be what they think. But that is not even an option, right? Like, this thing is coming through Florida strong. The best case scenario is it goes down to a 2 maybe, but that's probably not even that, right?
Well, yeah. So the social media thing scares me, because what I see is when I do a post and I pretty much say everything in there that makes sense, I hope, 9 out of 10 comments are, what about this area? What about this area? What about that area? People really have a hard time, I think, understanding the effects for themselves, and they need to be told. So with social media now, you get some hyperactive, they magnify the intensity on these things. I saw it last night on TikTok. I was like, every video was somebody doing live video on this storm, and they all have 1,000 people watching. And the ones that are like, you're going to die, they're the ones people cling to, and that's who they end up believing. So nobody knows who to trust anymore, and that's the problem. So I think what works for me, and I hope, is I try to educate on my site and let people think for themselves and hopefully become their own decision maker based on the facts in front of them, but there's a lot of society, I'm worried, that need to be told exactly what. without them thinking for themselves. I hate to say that, but I'm seeing that a lot.
I call them sheeple, but it's copywritten. I've never heard that before. I call them sheeple.
I made an asshole comment the other day. I'm like, you got to think for yourselves, people.
Yeah. Gotta think for yourself.
But
these colors don't run, Mike. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
But it is where people are like, what's going to happen in my blue dot that I see on my phone?
It's too big. It's too big for that.
And then it's like, be prepared. Go inside your house. Don't do anything stupid.
Stay in there for 2 days. We'll see you in 2 days.
Prepare for it, and you'll be fine. And if you're in a storm surge area, get out of there. Yeah. It's like me and Daniel were talking about this. We've been through, what we think 30 different named storms in our lives, or maybe more. I don't even know. But it's like we all know what to do. And it does everybody does get more nervous and amped up now that we're all holding devices that warn us every 5 seconds. Like, oh, it's coming. Here's the path. Look at it in your face. But there was a time
with this storm. 5 o'clock will come around and we'll get warnings. And once we get warnings, everybody's phones goes off. We talked about this on your show, I think last time, or maybe that was Drew and them. But everybody's phones goes off at the same time, and then it's like panic. You're in a surge warning, you're in a high wind warning, you're in a tropical storm warning. It's like, oh crap, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Doesn't really help my kid either. My kid's got a little bit of the storm anxiety, and when the phones go off. You're right. Like she thinks it's like she's like, do we need to leave? I'm like, oh my God, no. I mean, but yes, we should be smart about it and proper.
So the facts too is like 90. Let's just put it in perspective. 90% of all deaths, give or take a few, are water related. Okay, so if you stay away from the surge. And a lot of that's inland flooding, believe it or not. A lot of the water deaths are not just coastal; it's inland flooding. And we have inland flooding sometimes with these rain trains, we call them, where places like Lake City and Live Oak during Debbie were completely underwater. They're cities, like from a tropical storm. Yeah. So we're going to get areas that are going to get that. Some of the rain totals I've seen on the northeast side of Florida are crazy, double digits. We're going to have crazy rain. So every storm has different impacts, and you got to be prepared. And I think a lot of times we all focus on the landfall, wind speed, when it ends up being 20, 30, 40 tornadoes in South Florida, Miami, Key West, Lauderdale. Like, what are you talking about? I thought the storm was hitting Tampa. Why are we getting tornadoes? Or flooding in Jacksonville? So hurricanes have a far reach. And when you see these posts about, what about my location? Well, you're in a location that you're going to get some impact. It's you don't know who's going to get it. It's like a pin a tail on a donkey, right? You don't know who's going to get these impacts. They're going to be there for somebody, and don't be mad if you don't get them. Yeah. Don't be mad at the messenger.
Yeah. Well, that's just like this was a nothing hurricane. Okay, I think we're all done with that person. Like we'd rather be.
Also, this isn't going to be a nothing, though.
No. This is going to be real.
With there's some, it's stuff that's like, all right, you go, is a tropical storm by the time it reaches in. And by the way, we're all talking about ourselves. Which is kind of like you just mentioned it, Mike. Is like we're all like we all talk about how it's going to impact us personally, and you're like, there are millions of people that are going to be impacted by this. So many, and like you're right. If it shifts away from you, that means someone else is getting it. Yeah. So it's we're all in this together. Just help your neighbors, and let's get through the other side of it.
Yeah. Well, the one comment that sparks, like good, it shifted. Oh, then you just pissed off everybody it shifted to. I don't say that, but I'm saying in the comments.
Oh, right.
People are cheering like, oh, hey, so yeah, it's. And for me, I cannot fathom the amount of folks from Helene that are flooded. In my local hometown of Oldsmar, every 100 homes, it just every little town across the Florida West Coast has got hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people. Hundreds, not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands. And I saw an estimate, it might be 20 to 30,000 homes that were flooded. And that is a lot of people.
That's a ton.
Where do they go? And here's the other thing. Evacuations, right? Once they order these evacuations, most of these hotels are already half full from Helene, or having first responders or government officials or power companies. It's going to be near impossible to find hotels right now because everybody's going to be evacuating, and where do you go, right? So, and these poor people that are displaced now, where do they live? Like, my heart feels for them. They still have to work, but they don't have a house. It's just awful. And
if you don't have a house, this is a Dan Dennis guarantee. If you're working with us and you don't have a house, no work. You don't have to come to work.
yeah.
I'm throwing that out there.
Yeah.
For anybody working
You gotta
on
be a real a-hole boss. You're like, my house is gone.
I'm like, get to work.
It's 9:10,
Yeah,
buddy.
Get in there. Get in there. Put on a pot of coffee.
We'll put a cot in the back.
Yeah, exactly. We'll let you stay at the studio.
Well,
Hey, you know the worst part of this whole thing? I had a beer, come out, Spaghetti Model IPA, ABC. We had 2 meet and greets this week. We had one at Winter Garden and one in Cocoa Beach. So since I released this beer, we've had 2 hurricanes hit the dang state. So somebody said I've cursed the state of Florida with this stupid beer.
Oh, that's great marketing. I mean, I'm not supposed to say that, but like, you know what I mean. Yeah, you know what I mean.
We have to ride into the storm with a bunch of a garbage can full of your beer so that they fly into the tornado like Twister.
Okay, here's what we need.
Yeah. I jump out of the truck and then it goes.
It's you and the monkey.
Oh,
And then
that's the monkey.
Okay, so it's Mike and the monkey. Inside the back of your storm-chasing vehicle, there's a barrel of empty beer cans from Spaghetti Models IPA.
I'll fill them up, and I'll sing it. We'll sing a parody, and I'll say instead of raining men, it's raining beer.
Okay, that's done. That's done.
Right,
We'll do it. I'll get the monkey. We'll do it. Then we release them in there. We got bikini girls dancing around.
it's
The
raining
storm
beer.
rips their bikinis off. It's amazing.
And we'll have dancing monkeys in little tiki outfits.
Okay, tiki monkeys. We got it.
You do that move where you open the door and you roll out of the truck while it's going towards the tornado, and then you're like, "Oh no, the monkey! I left the monkey in there!" And then the monkey does that move where he looks through the back window, and then the truck flies away.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh!"
But then the storm goes away, and then we all congratulate, and we give a purple heart to the monkey for saving the world from the hurricane. There we go.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Hey, maybe I'll get a little sticker.
Okay, all right.
So follow Mike on Mike's weather page. Look him up on Facebook.
SpaghettiModels.com is the only place you need to go for all of your hurricane information.
That's where I get my updates. Mike,
It's on in the other room.
Yeah, thanks for coming on with us. We appreciate it.
We love you, man.
Good luck with everything. Maybe if anything changes or whatever, I may text you. Maybe jump on another call tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be around. I do want to shout out. I don't know Elon very personally, but I had Starlink at Talladega. We just got home, and if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have been able to update.
Nice.
And the coolest story for me ever personally was during Helene. We were at Ground Zero, and the FHP was there, and they were trying to get drone video to Tallahassee, but all the towers were down. They had no connections, and I was able to use my Starlink, and all the cops were pulling up. We had Polk County showing up and FHP, and I was so, thankful to be able to help in that aspect there too. So
that's awesome, man. Well, we appreciate what you do for our community and for Florida and, and the surrounding areas, and stay safe. And if you need anything from us, man, holler at us. All right.
Thanks guys for having me on. We'll see you.
All right.
Thanks,
Cheers, Mike. See ya.
Mike from Mike's weather page. He's a good guy.
You know who else is a good guy? Elon Musk. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I'm just making jokes. It's a joke. We do just jumping around. Hey, jump. Hey, pull your shirt down. Pull your shirt down. You need a bigger shirt. You need a bigger shirt. If you're going to jump around on stage, you need a bigger shirt.
Well, if you're on the spectrum,
your shirts are tight. Yeah, a lot of you are.
Yeah,
a lot of you are, because it's not your top priority. Science is your top priority.
It makes for a nice, awkward speech.
It makes for a good TikTok video that can just flip right through.
If I ever get up there, we'll get ready for it. Anyway, all right.
Are you prepared, buddy? You good to go? I think we're good to go. Oh, you're not?
No.
All right. Well, we probably should get out of here so you can go take care of that.
No.
I have nothing to do. I just had to do full transparency. I just had a list of stuff I had to get. That's it.
Well, with Crystal's mom's house and my house, and then I got a couple days of it.
You're fine.
I'll prepare all the way up. Wednesday night, I'll be up bailing my pool again.
Well, it's not hitting until Wednesday night. You can do it until Wednesday morning.
I got a ton of time.
You can start Wednesday morning.
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna do.
It's easy.
I just gotta get beer, weed.
That's
it.
The whole chat room. All they're talking about is like, did you get the true leaves? I gotta get some wax. I gotta get a blowtorch. You drug addicts. You're all drug addicts. You and your marijuana and your shrooms. All you guys do is drink and do drugs all the time.
Well,
that's all you do.
That's the only thing that's good.
Every morning I come in here, I fire up the chat room, I look at it, they're like, let me get my wax, let me get my mushrooms, let me drink 5 beers.
That's all we got.
Bunch of goddamn drug addicts.
All right, we will be right back.